Hello and welcome to the Sports Show with Bob Spino, where we are here at the end of the NBA and NHL playoffs. It still boggles my mind, Bob, to see that the NBA season will conclude before the NHL season. I don't think we've ever really seen that before.
No, you're right. I couldn't, even the regular season, usually they're done a couple weeks before the NBA and not now, though. It's kind of different.
But it's a pretty exciting time. We're looking at pretty good series here. Celtics and the Warriors, along with that Lightning Rangers series, is really hot. So we'll have plenty to discuss with our special guest, Bob. I'm going to bring him in here a moment. Who do we got here today?
We have Neal Spielberg, and he's Mr. Country Music himself. He worked at Warner Brothers Records for about 20 years, and now he's working down there, and he's on the board for the Country Music Awards. And so we're bringing him on. How are you?
Thank you for joining us, sir. How are you?
I'm doing just fine, thanks. How are you doing?
Well, right off the bat, I'm putting you on the spot. What's your prediction for the NBA Finals the rest of the way?
Boston.
Oh, there you go.
He's ready, Bob. He's ready for the sports show.
I'm a Boston fan. I've been one for years, so I'm pretty happy.
I'm a finals only basketball watcher since I live in Nashville. We don't have a pro team here. Right. Memphis is our closest franchise, but I just feel it's their time to shine again, and they look pretty dominating So yeah. I think it's I'll say Boston in 6.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that if it goes 7, that benefits Golden State because they got to go out there. I know about the road. I know how hard it is. But I think Boston tonight's the biggest game. Whoever wins that pretty much got it.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't lived. I grew up in Philly originally, and was a Sixers fan back in the day. But I've been here 38 years in Nashville, so I've kind of lost touch with pro basketball. And I kind of joke that being short, white, and Jewish, basketball isn't in my blood. Although, Red Auerbach, we have our people. So anyway, how are you guys doing?
CCNY, Neal.
What's that?
CCNY. When they won their title, they had a couple Jewish guys on there.
That's right. So, nice to meet you. Bob and I met once, and I don't know if he told you how we met, but we were on the
I'm going to guess there's a story behind it.
Well, I was there. Let's see. I was at Yankee Stadium. The Diamondbacks were in town, I believe. And a friend of mine is the traveling secretary for the D-backs, Roger Riley, great guy. And I was there with my son-in-law, and later on my daughter joined us. And we were there having a meeting with the Diamondbacks about a pitching machine that my son-in-law built and created and put together, which emulates any major league pitcher. So it's an amazing thing. And we knew that there were some competitors out there with other machines that did some similar, but they each had their own bells and whistles. And we were having a meeting with Roger, and I forget his name right now. He was the batting instructor for the Diamondbacks, who's unfortunately no longer there after having a couple of rough seasons. They have to find the fall guy, so he was terminated. But and then COVID hit and everything else, so it's been kind of on the side for now. But in the meantime, we were out there, and I was on the field with a pass, and there's Bob, and we started chatting, and here we are.
Was this device you're talking about in use when you met?
No, it was not in use. We were, I say we, because I have some friends in baseball and in front office management. I was able to open some doors for my son-in-law, who's a New York City guy, grew up there, and we were just, like I said, presenting it at the time to the Diamondbacks.
When I first met Neal, the first question I asked you was, who do you know? Because we all knew somebody on the field. And at first you just kind of didn't answer me. And I'm like, I know you had to know somebody
You're
because
right.
I knew Tori Lavello.
Oh,
And,
right.
and, so finally, like, you know what, he started talking to me, and then like, I'm like, I should get his number. And I'm just like, I'm sure glad I did, because he's the greatest guy in the world. You're a great guy, Neal.
Well, thank you. I told Bob, I said, I'm a sports enthusiast, but I'm not like a rabid sports fan with stats and all that stuff. I have always rooted for the team of where I was living for any length of time. And I'm still a Phillies fan because there's no baseball team here, or no major league team here in Nashville. We have the Nashville Sounds minor league, which I believe is Milwaukee's minor league team.
Right.
We have Memphis Grizzlies. We do have our Tennessee Titans and Nashville Predators, and now our Nashville Soccer Club with, I'm happy to say, the largest soccer specific stadium in the country.
Is that right?
For Major League Soccer. And I cannot tell a lie. I have not been there yet. I'm supposed to go to a game in the next few weeks, but I was never a huge soccer fan, but I'm starting to become one cheering on our Nashville team. So still avid Phillies fan. Have a soft spot in my heart for the Dolphins because I lived in Miami.
Let's go Dolphins.
Well, I was there during the heyday, and the 72 Dolphins, still the only undefeated team that run the table.
And we have to shove it in their faces every year, Neal, every year.
Now, do you have attachment to Miami?
So it's actually a familial attachment.
Oh, okay.
Basically, my older brother, as a kid, fell in love with the Dolphins because of the fight song.
Oh,
so
okay.
The whole family back then just loved that fight song, and so we became a Dolphins family, and I've been ever since.
Was a big fan of, I used to be able to, back when my memory is a little better, I was able to name the whole 72 starting team, offense and defense. But of course, Bob Greasy, Paul Warfield, Mercury Morris, kicking Zonka in the backfield, and a great defense. Dick Anderson and Jake Scott as our safeties. It was a great team. And,
Neal, Bob's telling me you have no affinity, no knowledge of sports heading into this discussion. And here you are talking about the great 72 Dolphins roster. Bob, was this a miscalculation?
I lie a lot.
Well, like I said, I don't have the, I have friends that talk sports and like they know every detail about every game. It's like, I don't know when you find the time to do this, but I've been in the music business now, entertainment business for 44 years.
Right.
And it started with Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. I don't know if I told you that. Did I tell you that, Bob?
No, I read about it last night, and that was
okay.
You were in University of Arizona when that happened?
I went to University of Arizona, worked at a radio station there. The number one station in the market was an AM top 40 station called KTKT. And one of the clients, I was in sales, and one of the clients of the radio station was the promoter, advance man from Ringling out in LA, and he would come in and do the shows. And we hit it off, and he says, "Why don't you come work for us when you finish school?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not running away with the circus." So I continued school, and I went out to LA. This is 78. December 78, to chase my career and start my career, hopefully, in the music business. And unfortunately, the business was going through one of its great downturns at that time. About 6 months after trying to find a job, I called this gentleman, Tom Krangle, and said, "Hey, is that job still open?" And coincidentally, they had just bought Ringling had just bought Ice Follies and Holiday on Ice.
I remember those,
which are now Disney on Ice.
Right.
Freshened it up and put, did a licensing deal with Disney, and they said, "Yeah, we'd love to have you join us." So the next day, I was on a plane to the Bahamas for a training session. And then after a week down there learning how to promote, they give you a 3-ring binder, and an 18-week program. And it basically it's like painting by the numbers. It's promoting by the numbers. Of course, they expect you to add your special knowledge and creativity to all these promotions that you have choices of. But my first gig was Tucson because I knew the market because of college. And then eventually they moved me to LA, and I had the LA Forum back before there was the Staples Center.
Right.
And Anaheim, LA, Anaheim, and Long Beach back to back. So it was a nice run, about 3.5 years, but I always wanted to get back into music. That wasn't an option at the time. So Atari video games.
Oh, I love Atari.
So 1981 Miss Pac-Man and all that stuff. And Warner bought Atari. So I had always wanted to work for Warner Brothers. To me, it was the greatest record label of all time. They had the coolest artists. And it was my way to get into the Warner family, figuring I'll get to music eventually. And went to work for Atari down in Atlanta, and handled some of the big record chain accounts trying to get Atari video games and cartridges in their stores.
Neal, are you to blame for the demise of the Atari Jaguar?
No, I had
okay. You're absolved.
I'm good, but Atari had responsibility for the demise of Warner stock price for a long time.
I could only imagine.
They bought it. I don't remember the exact dates, but I think they bought it in like March of '82, and by December of '82 they sold it.
Wow.
It was that pitiful. And I think the Warner stock went from like 62 down to 19 in a matter of days. Luckily, I made enough of an impression. They moved me to Nashville. It's kind of an experiment. I did music sales and video sales because the video business was starting to crank up. We all remember Beta and VHS video movies.
I still got one.
And I moved to Nashville, and I was their rep here. And after about 6 months, they said, okay, how's it going? Is it a job for one person? And I said, no, it's two different businesses. And they said, okay, career fork in the road, music or video, which one do you want? And it's the old, you go with your passion and what got you there to begin with. And I chose music, never regretted it for a minute. I was a regional sales rep for Warner, Elektra, and Atlantic Records, which was all under the Warner banner. So, I mean, imagine walking into a big chain Tower, for argument's sake. Most of you know Tower Records. And you're carrying the Warner bag, which had Prince and Madonna and Chicago. And
I met them.
Neal, Chicago, yep.
Yeah, my brother's friends with the road manager. He got me passes in the back in New York City.
Really?
I watched the concert. Yeah.
There's a couple of guys are still friends, and that I got to work with them a little bit. But you had that from Warner, Elektra. You had Jackson Browne, Queen, Linda Ronstadt, the Eagles, and then on Atlantic you had Phil Collins and Yes, and Phil Collins band, which I'm spacing on at the moment, but Genesis.
I got a question. Did you meet Debbie Gibson? She was on Atlantic.
I met Debbie. Funny story.
I met her too.
And I got a lot of great stories for you. But Debbie was at a Adam Sandler, we'll call it Christmas/Hanukkah party, about 3 or 4 years ago out in LA. And a friend of mine was his music supervisor and invited me to the party. And it was awesome to be there. So I got to meet Debbie backstage, and very, very nice lady.
Yeah. I met her when she was a teen, when she was big. I went to a thing called the New York Music Awards, and the guy just walked up and gave me a pass. I'm like, oh. And the next thing I know, I'm like in the thing, and I ended up kissing her, believe it or not. We were kids, and
good thing there wasn't a lawsuit involved. No, I'm kidding.
No. She was 18.
Oh, okay. That's good to hear, Bob.
Yes.
For the record.
Yes.
I'm bad, but not that bad.
For the record. Okay.
Yes, for the record.
So yeah, I was with Warner Brothers Records here in Nashville. I went from regional sales to national sales eventually VP of Sales and Marketing for Warner Brothers Nashville. So I got to start out with, I don't know if any of your viewers or listeners are country music fans, but some of the biggest names in the business: Hank Williams Jr., Randy Travis and Dwight Yoakam from the very beginning, Faith Hill, Jeff Foxworthy, who still has the biggest selling comedy album of all time.
He's funny.
I would say, I won't mention any names, out of all the artists I've worked with, and I would say hundreds, only one that I would look back and say, that was my challenge artist. But everybody else, it's a genre where the people don't get too crazy. It's been a really nice run.
I got a question.
Yeah.
You talked about Kenny Rogers when I talked about him. My brother's best friends with him, was best friends with him, and his best friends with his ex-wife.
Oh, really?
And when
which one of his ex-wives? No, I'm kidding.
Oh, you're right. They lived in. My brother went to.
I guess Neal's not coming on now.
What's that now?
Okay.
My brother went to Georgia with some of his picnics.
Kenny was a sweetheart. We actually
I met him.
Another interesting story, but Kenny, when he was much younger, was the producer of a little band out of a group of guys. The band was called Shiloh, and the band consisted of Glenn Fry, Don Henley.
Oh, wow.
See where I'm going with this?
I do.
Michael Bowden, whose cousin was Richard Bowden from the comedy team Pinkerton Bowden. Anyway, and the fourth member of that band was a guy named Jim Ed Norman. Jim Ed went on to be the president of Warner Brothers Records Nashville for years, like 25 years. It was a very long run for a label president. Years later, Jim Ed ended up producing Kenny's album, two of Kenny's albums with us at Warner Reprise. And now Jim Ed just finished a 3-year run with the Eagles. Did either of you get to see the tour at all?
No.
Hotel
I've never
California
seen the Eagles
tour?
in person.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Well, the Hotel California tour, they took an orchestra, a 44-piece orchestra was on stage every night. They would take 2 or 3 of the band leaders and then hire locals for the rest of the show. Well, my old boss, Jim Ed, was the band orchestra leader. And it's because he and Henley have been friends since college.
Now, I believe it was Ringo was friends with some of the, or one of them at least, right?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Ringo of the Beatles. He's friends with one of the Eagles. Am I right? Or he was one of them?
Joe Walsh, I think.
Right. They were tight. Yeah. Have you met the Beatles at all?
Met Paul. Actually,
you got to talk to him. Bring him on. I'm a Beatles.
I mean, it was just a friend of mine who's a really well-known industry guy here, Al Bonetta. Right. He and John Klein started a record label called Oh Boy Records that's still in existence even since John has passed. But Al Bonetta was friends with Kevin Ray, one of his guitar players. I think it's Kevin Ray. Anyway, we went to Cleveland to see the show back in the USA tour many years ago, and got to meet Paul. It was literally just a nice to meet you, kind of like I'm not worthy kind of thing. And
that's what I would have done.
And then also at a Warner Grammy post Grammy party, we had a band. The Traveling Wilburys.
Yeah, of course.
And got to meet George at the party. Yeah.
Right.
George Harrison was part of that. So that was pretty cool.
There was.
I was with a Nashville artist, Travis Tritt. I don't know if any of you are familiar.
Yeah, I know.
But Travis was with me that night, and I got to introduce him to George Harrison, which was pretty cool. But those are the only two. I'd really love to go to a Ringo show. And
I heard it's amazing.
It's a fun night of it's really an entertaining night, and he's always got the All-Star Band, and it's literally made up of all stars from other bands that's right. We all know and love.
Right.
Now, Neil, I have to ask you the same question I asked to pretty much all the sports figures that come on. And in
I'm not
your
a sports figure,
industry,
but go ahead.
it's okay. It works. In the music industry, in the span of your career, what's the evolution of it looked like? How have the genres changed as well? I mean, how different is the music industry from 40 years ago to now,
Oh,
really?
well, let's just one aspect of it is just the technology change, which of course advances at a very high speed. When I got in it, it was LPs, albums, and also in some cases if y'all remember, reel to reel.
Real to real. I had to. I went
Albums
to
on reel to
broadcast
reel.
school. We had to learn how to do that. Snip and then
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and then you went from that to eight-track tapes.
Right.
Eight-tracks had a short variation. If you remember quadraphonic eight-tracks,
I do.
where you heard, and one of the greatest albums ever on quadraphonic eight-track was the Led Zeppelin 2 album.
Right.
The song "Whole Lot of Love," there was like an instrumental breakdown in the song, and on quad it went around all four speakers.
Right.
It was wild, and then you went from 8-track to cassette to CD, CD to downloads, and now downloads to streaming. So that's kind of the evolution just on that part of the what we call configuration of music. It's also with it was a mom and pop business originally, or now we call it independent retail. And thankfully, while a lot of them did not survive, a lot of the true record stores now are independent record stores. There's an amazing one here in Nashville called Grimey's. It's one of the best in the country. There's a great one in Austin. I'm sure there's great stores up there. I mean, Tower used to be the place that you could find everything and anything.
Yep.
Sadly, they went away. I think they're still online, though, by the way. So mom and pop or independent retail went away as a result of downloading. They just couldn't, survive. People could, like we're doing here, sit at their computer. I often point to one of the amazing things in music, and I'm gonna hold up my phone, but whichever streaming service you use, I'm not favorable to any which one, but you hold up your phone, you go, I've got the entire history of recorded music in the palm of my hand.
Wow.
I can call up any song, any artist, and go, hey, I'd like to hear, Prince or a bluegrass band that I work with, Nefesh Mountain, or a Christian music artist named Ben Fuller or whoever, and go, oh, click, click, and the music plays. And if you have good speakers, or a great headset, then you've got wonderful sounding music right in the palm of your hand, your entire record collection.
In your opinion, Neil, how significant was the impact of Napster coming on the scene, 20 something years ago?
Very significant. I look back at it and can say that our label executives, way above my head, put their head in the sand and ignored digital revolution at first when they should have embraced it. And it caused the industry to go into a tailspin for quite a few years. It was we were playing a game of whack-a-mole. Every time the industry shut down one service, another 5 popped up, and eventually, when Apple came along with the iPhone or the iPod, excuse me, which by the way they just discontinued after all these years. What are the 21 years old?
He did.
And the iPod made it a legitimate, download. And people go, oh, okay. And they made it simple. And then the iPod eventually evolved into the iPhone. And of course, the Apple iTunes store, it was a record store right on your computer. So,
I got a question.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, I loved to sing. That was like the thing I wanted to do. And so I like a lot of different music. I do like some country. What about Glenn Campbell? Have you ever met him? What was he like?
Glenn, I never met Glenn. He's an amazing talent.
Oh, yeah.
And from all accounts of people that I know well that work with him, and even one gentleman who managed him, nothing but great things to say about him. And what an amazing voice. There's a guy that lives here in Nashville whose name escapes me, but he wrote Rhinestone Cowboy. And I run into him. What's that?
Webb? Was it Webb? I think Webb.
No. I know who you're talking. Jimmy Webb. Jimmy wrote a good portion of Glenn's hit songs.
Right.
Larry, it'll come to me before we finish, but Larry is his first name. I just can't think of his last name right now. But he wrote Rhinestone Cowboy, and I see him at our local Brugger's Bagel Shop when I go over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, again, I've had the honor, the pleasure, the responsibility of working with some of the greatest names in the business. When I left Warner after 22 years, the first call I got was from Merle Haggard and his manager, asking me to help him put out his first independent album, not in a major label situation. And, I was like, I said, can you let me think about it? And okay, I thought about it. Yes. And that actually began my next chapter, which was Spielberg Consulting. And I helped independent artists and independent labels with distribution deals, writing a marketing plan, and so on. And then eventually it evolved into artist management, which is what I've been doing now for the last 12 years.
What about John Denver? Did you meet him?
No, I knew his guitarist very well. He was a dear friend. Pete Huttlinger was the guy's name, and I'm still friends with. He unfortunately passed from a heart situation that he had, but I love his music.
Me too. My brother met him one time.
Right.
What happened was my brother would work for the Milwaukee Bucks. He was a trainer.
Oh, okay.
And he was on tour and he was going to perform in the arena, and they had the Bucks were giving tickets out for anybody who wanted to go see it, but the Bucks were going on the road that night,
right,
on a road trip. So he came in early to check everything, and my brother took care of him for a couple minutes.
Right.
But he couldn't stay for the concert. He had to leave, and he really wanted to see. He was a great guy.
Yeah, John was quite a talent. I think they still do every year out at Red Rock, which is one of the great venues in our United States. It's a natural amphitheater up in the mountains outside of Denver. And they do a John Denver tribute concert every year. He still has an amazing fan base that wants to hear it, and some of them are the old band members and such. So it's I've not seen it, but Pete used to tell me about it. He would go out there for that every year.
Speaking of tech, Neal, are we going to be seeing hologram concerts in our future?
I think so. I don't know if I think I saw this the other day. Did you see that they used a hologram for the Queen Jubilee thing?
I did not see that.
So they had her in a some kind of vehicle, and it was a hologram of her as she was not at her very youngest, but much younger than she is today. And they had her go by, and she was waving to the fans, but it was a hologram. Pretty amazing. But I've seen a few tests. I saw Rodney Dangerfield hologram thing, which was mind blowing because I'm a big Rodney fan anyway. I think I saw.
Did he finally get his due?
Yeah,
the hologram.
Finally got respect. You know what I mean?
Guys, respect.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't think it'll never replace the real thing, but I think there will be opportunities for hologram concerts or events to happen that will augment everything else that's out there. But people are starved for live entertainment right now. But with the COVID situation, and I'm not taking a political stand here one way or the other, there are still a lot of people that are, including myself, I don't necessarily want to go into a club or a baseball stadium, a baseball park, as bad as I want to go see it, and be in a crowd of, anywhere from a club of, 500 closely together, because I know how I handle myself, but I don't know the guy next to me or the lady next to him. And,
Just for the record, I'm going to see Arizona tomorrow. I'm getting on the field in Philadelphia.
oh, really? That's right. They're playing in town. Well,
Yep.
Roger will be down there, I'm sure. And I'm jealous because I'd love to be at that game.
Oh, you know what? If you could have went, I would have got your pass.
Oh, well,
I got you.
yeah, I'm enjoying the fact that we're on a 7-game run. Unfortunately, the Braves are on an 8-game winning streak,
Right.
and the Mets are just out of control. I mean, they're amazing this year.
Right.
So
I'm a Met fan, actually. So,
oh yeah, well
yeah. Like when
Yeah,
we were on
Philly
that
fans
field, I
are
was
tough.
rooting for Arizona. I hate the Yankees.
yeah, it's a tough division for us this year, and
Right.
but it's encouraging that we've turned it around. I'm sorry that Girardi got let go. I think he was the fall guy for the player personnel people who can't seem to put I won't curse,
A thing together. How about that?
well, we have no bullpen. We can't seem to hold the game.
Right.
Even if our starters get us ahead into the 5th or 6th inning, our bullpen can't possibly. I mean, this is going on 7 or 8 years now. This is not a new problem.
No.
And I can't blame Girardi. I blame, the people who are not putting the right players in the mix. So, like I said, somebody had to take the fall, and on the short term, it's working. We haven't lost a game since.
No, you got 7 in a row.
Yeah, but like I said, Atlanta's got 8 in a row, so they're keeping pace.
I know the Mets went down there. They were down by like 6 runs in the ninth. We scored 8 runs on the closer.
Oh, I know.
That like never happens.
It's just like I hate to see our starters get pulled in a game because like, oh, well, there goes that game.
Right.
Right. But
stop taking the pitcher out. I scream about that all the time.
Yeah. Well,
stop doing it.
Talk about changing the game.
That's changed too much. Basketball too.
We went to specialists.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, Sandy Kovacs and a lot of these guys that are my idols,
right?
Pitched, if not the whole game, pitched 8 innings or whatever, and there wasn't such a thing as a middle relief, and then the closers, of course. But it's a different day, and the money's just completely out of whack in sports. But
Charles Barkley came on radio the other night. I was listening to him. He's not afraid of anything. And he basically said, I got news for you. All these young guys that are ripping on the people of the past, he goes, this league's a joke. Half these players today suck. It's exactly what he said on the radio. He goes, they could never play when we would have killed these guys.
Yeah.
And he goes, it's a 3-point contest. That's crazy.
It is. It's a 3-point game now. Just ask the Warriors.
Right. And they're really the only 2 that can do it consistently.
Yeah.
The rest of the league is not Curry and Thompson. They're just not.
Right.
So Neal, the concept of fame. Do you agree with me in my position that fame has completely changed from what it was years ago? Mm-hmm. It's a different universe in terms of this short length streaming, attention span grabbing. You got the people like us on the YouTube. I mean, is fame a different thing now? Do we have mega stars like we used to?
That's a great question. And that's been discussed a lot lately, in particular in the music side of fame. For years, artists would come to town and they just want to make it in the music business. It wasn't about fame. It was, they want to have success. They want to get their music out. They want to entertain, perform in front of a crowd or whatever. Now kids, because of shows like American Idol and because of people like the Kardashians and whatever, more kids, a higher percentage, I'll say, not everybody, but a higher percentage come to town. They meet an executive. And I had this conversation with Scott Borchetta, who's the head of Big Machine, one of the most successful labels, had Taylor Swift for many years.
I was going to ask if you met her.
And I had a band that was on tour with her for a little while. So met her. Anyway, and really sweet. I met her when she was much younger, but going back to the fame thing, it's the kids come in, they want to be, what's your goal? I want to be famous. It's not, I want to be a great artist. I want
Right.
to be famous.
Right. I mean, I agree with
well,
that because
go ahead.
we're actually praising just the fact, not the talent anymore, just the fact that the person does something weird or different. And
Well, we're raising the flash of the minute, and this
Yeah.
goes to this whole TikTok sensation.
right.
And I'm not anti-TikTok; it's a great marketing tool.
Right.
But this has been in the press a lot here lately, and there was a young lady who I can't remember her background, but she Canadian major record company, and she was quoted as, we've gotten into this trap of signing art, looking for artists, and all we're looking for is numbers and stats,
Right.
and we're forgetting to listen to the music.
Right. The talent.
So it's all about that.
Talent no more.
There's a sentiment, and it's not shared by everybody, but a sentiment that labels are signing audiences, not artists anymore.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying by that?
I
It's
do.
like,
No, I get it.
unless the artist walks in and says, I have 2 million followers and monthly streamers or whatever, that's what they're looking at. And I understand that because the money has changed a lot with streaming. And also that means the staffs of these record companies has been reduced in a lot of areas, in particular A&R, artists and repertoire, who are responsible for signing acts. So it used to be, at least in country, you went out to clubs and looked for talent.
Right.
And
right.
you would hear about talent from another manager that you were already doing business with, or an attorney that represented that artist and whatever. But a lot of these A&R young people went out to clubs to all over the country to hear, there's usually a buzz going on locally, and there's a good network of being able to find that. But now it's there's still some of that going on, not so much the clubs, but the lawyers or other executives bringing an artist to the attention of a label. But there are a lot of signings of, what's the latest sensation on TikTok?
Right.
And I'm not going to mention any names. I don't want to make, I have my own observations, but there's a few artists that are out there now that are TikTok sensations, and I wouldn't begin to try to predict whether they'll sustain a career or not. But my gut tells me it will be a short-lived career.
Yeah. I was gonna. Do you think
until the next.
music today is better than the past? Because I don't.
I'm sorry. Say again.
Do you think the quality of music is better today than in the past? Because I don't. I think it's going. I think it's like sports. It's going down.
Yeah.
It's similar.
There's a lot here's the situation. There's a lot more access to the consumer than there ever was, because you don't have to be signed to a label to release music. That doesn't mean it's good music. Right. So anybody can release a record now, or a digital file, which is technically what it is. It's music on a digital file versus a vinyl single or a digital single, whatever. So since you have a lot more artists having access to the consumer, that artist still has to find an audience. And unless they're independently wealthy, which is a big part of what a label brings to an artist now, is a bank. They're the bank for the artist. They're also an entity that is trusted because they've been in business and had success, whether it's Warner, Universal, or Sony, or some of the major independents like Republic Records, who's the hottest label in any genre of music these days. The Avery Brothers, and they help curate this music. Look, there's a lot of great things to the internet, but it does give a lot of very average or below average acts
Right.
access. And what that does is it clutters the market.
Right. So
And it makes it harder for independent artists to sift through what's out there to get to you, ultimately to you.
so it's more quantity than quality, pretty much.
Yeah, I would say that's a fair assessment, but there are some great artists that
Oh yeah, I'm
you
sure.
and I will never even know are out there because they didn't get either they didn't know somebody or didn't have the funding to get to the consumer in a you're looking for mass audience, that part has never changed. An artist comes along, a great piece of music comes along, and you need to get to a wide audience.
Right.
Ultimately, I mean, that's where you get your major stars from, but they move at a different every one of them moves at a different pace. I've seen artists come along and like boom, they hit it, and there's still the parts that artists don't, or that the consumer doesn't see, of the 5 to 10 years that they were unknown, and then all of a sudden there's an artist in town who I like a lot named LV Shane, country artist, and he was in a duo, he was a solo, and he and his manager were out trying to get him a deal and get attention. And a couple labels saw the talent but weren't ready to commit. And then it took one song, which was his first single called My Boy. It was a very emotional song. And that was the 3 minutes of magic everybody was looking for.
Wow.
Got him signed, now he's on his way. How long that career will go, I don't try to predict.
Nobody knows that.
Yeah, I mean, from the ground level here, looking at it, I see there's stars out there, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
How many the bandwidth for the mega star is just narrowing by the second.
It
with
is.
all this glutton of just
Now,
attention grabbing sources out there.
Yeah, country has grown pretty strong in the last 5 to 10 years. There used to be pretty much an 8 artist Mount Rushmore at any given time. And now it seems to have grown a little bit wider than that. But it's a cyclical thing. I don't know right off the top of my head, but country generally represents about runs about 7 or 8% of the overall music streaming or sales or whatever. Now it's a bit higher. There's some acts that are breaking through and getting attention. Also, what's the word I'm looking for? A practice that goes on in the pop world a lot, and other genres, which is collaborations of this artist with this artist, and you see a lot of that in the urban music world, hip hop and rap. It's starting to happen a lot in country, where artists are collaborating, and you take 2 stars and they're on a song together. It's becoming a little bit more common practice here.
Anything down the pike in the industry, the kind of the what sits at the frontier that we really don't talk about that is probably going to make a significant impact?
There's some more technology things going on. The term spatial audio is you'll be hearing more about, I think, in the next few years. Spatial audio is, we're always trying to bring a quality of audio through whatever, the most recent configuration, obviously streaming now, as opposed to the compressed sound that you get when you do listen on your phone, even with decent headphones. Spatial audio opens it up even more. It's kind of a next step from what we had with 5.1 digital audio. And that was pretty amazing. I mean, I went into a demonstration here in Nashville, and the producer had a nail in the floor, which was the sweet spot of the room. And he put on, I'm trying to think of what record it was. I think it was a Steely Dan record. And I mean, I felt like I was in the room with the artist. You could hear every little squeak of their fingers on the guitar frets. And it was just mind blowing. Spatial audio is again expanding the range, trying to decompress what has been compressed, in files. So I think that'll be a big thing. Hopefully, live entertainment will continue to grow. It's been a little challenging for some artists because there's so many acts that have been pent up for 2.5 years. So everybody wants to tour, and there's a glut out there, and you have consumers that aren't 100% ready to go back into these places, like I mentioned earlier. But you also have there's so many choices. Somebody's going to end up short. So you have the super groups that are going out, like the Eagles and such, and that soaks up a lot of dollars. And now we have again, not a political statement, but a fact of inflation, gas prices and consumer goods, and that takes money out of your pocket. So it's going to be hard for the average consumer to do more than one show every so often, where they might have gone out and tried several shows. The gas is too expensive to get to the venue,
Right.
and so on. So people have to make hard choices. Is it groceries, or is it a concert tonight?
Yeah, it's getting tough. There's no doubt
Pretty
about that.
amazing we're in that reality
Yeah.
as we speak, that we're in
and
that situation right now.
It's really ramped up right now. To people are starting, the price points on fuel and food are now, before it was like, okay, it's bad, but we'll get there. I think people are making some really hard choices now, and that's going to hurt the music industry, at least the live touring side. Think about the price of fuel. Even from the smaller artists to the huge tours, all that fuel for the buses that are going out there, and then ticket prices go up because they have to, they have a 30 to 40% increase in fuel costs. They can only eat so much of that, to help the consumer before they go, hey, we just can't tour and lose money.
How much is it there a gallon now?
We're about, I'm trying to think, 449, 459, 469.
5.
Yeah, I know.
5 on the dot here.
Yeah. So, hey guys, I know I love this, and I could talk for days.
We want you back.
Yeah,
Listen.
you feel free to come back anytime, Neal.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to do that, Bob. You know how to reach me. I'll be happy to make a return, and we can find another topic.
Is there any sort of link or anything towards your son-in-law's picture emulator device?
No.
Okay.
No, unfortunately, no. It's still. It's not so much that it's in development. It's just until we are able to get a team to jump on it, and we've been a little bit inhibited by the whole. We were originally 4 days away from going to meet with 5 teams out in Phoenix during spring training, and COVID happened in 2020.
Right.
I think everything shut down the 14th, and we were supposed to leave the 20th or the 18th to go out there, and we had meetings set up with everybody. And it's been a little odd ever since we were able to do the Cubs meeting, but we'll get there, and I feel confident that it's a great product, and teams, and once one does it, you'll see them all kind of fall apart, or most of them.
I'll talk to your friend with Arizona. We had the guy on that made the bats on one of our shows.
Oh, really? Okay.
I want to show him. I want to show him.
Well, if you happen to get down on the field and see Roger Riley, tell him I said hi.
I will do that.
Neal, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. See you soon.
Stay peaceful.
Thanks, Neal.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye now. There you have it, folks. Neal Spielberg, country music mogul, in the house, sharing his thoughts. So you know the drill. Like, share, and subscribe. Again, please, imploring you, like, share, and subscribe. Signing off here with the Sports Show with Bob Spino. This is Rob.